In 1980, a young Taiwanese boy named Jensen Huang was sitting in front of his television set glued to the screen. What he was watching would change his life forever. It was an episode of the popular show 60 Minutes about a company called Intel and its then CEO, Gordon Moore. In the interview, Gordon talked about how he built the most valuable semiconductor company in the world. And Jensen couldn't believe what he was hearing. At that moment, Jensen realized that if someone could build such a great company from scratch, then he could do it too. Little did Jensen know that one day he would be sitting at the top of the mountain himself. Today, Jensen is the CEO of NVIDIA and is worth over $1 billion. But this success story doesn't come without a price. Jensen has put in countless hours of work and has made many sacrifices along the way. So make sure to watch until the end so you can learn how Jensen became successful and what you can do to become successful yourself. Jensen was born in Tainan City, Taiwan on February 17, 1963. He grew up in an average working-class family. His father was an electrical engineer who worked for a government-owned electronics manufacturer, and his mother was a homemaker. Though Jensen's family wasn't wealthy by any means, they didn't struggle to pay the bills or anything like that. It was just an average Taiwanese family trying to get by, as you can imagine. Growing up in Taiwan during the 1960s and 70s was pretty tough. Taiwan was still trying to recover from the Chinese Civil War, and the economy was struggling. This meant that Jensen had to work hard from a very young age if he wanted to have a better life. For example, he started doing odd jobs around the neighborhood when he was just 12 years old. He also studied very hard in school because he knew that getting a good education was his ticket out of Taiwan. All of this work paid off. When Jensen graduated from National Taiwan University with a degree in electrical engineering, but even after all of this hard work, Jensen knew that he wasn't done yet. He still had to go to America if he wanted to make something of himself. So he applied to Stanford University and got accepted. When Jensen arrived at Stanford, he was excited but also a bit intimidated. He knew that he was one of the only Asian students there, and he felt like he had to prove himself. Of course, Jensen ended up proving himself wrong because he finished his master's and PhD in just 2 years. Jensen then got a job at a small startup called LSI Logic, where he met his future wife, Lori. They got married in 1990 and had 2 sons together. Jensen was finally starting to live the American dream, but things were about to get even better. In 1994, Jensen was given the opportunity to join a new chip startup called NVIDIA. Jensen was the 21st employee to join the company, and he was in charge of the graphics division. The graphics division was just a small part of the business back then. No one thought that graphics cards would ever be more than just a niche product. But Jensen saw the potential and he bet the company that he could make the graphics division profitable. Of course, everyone laughed at him, but Jensen didn't care. He knew that he was right and he was willing to risk it all to prove it. As the year 2000 approached, Jensen started to feel confident that he could convince the higher-ups to let him focus on GPUs full-time. After all, he had a few good ideas that he thought could really take the product to the next level. But there was one big problem. NVIDIA's main customer, Dell, was planning to release a new computer that didn't support GPUs. This could be disastrous for Jensen and his team because it meant that they would lose their biggest customer. Not to mention that the entire industry was starting to believe that GPUs weren't going to be a mainstream product anytime soon. Despite all the naysayers, Jensen pressed on with his plan. He knew that GPUs were the future, and he was determined to make it happen. Jensen spent countless hours working on new designs and prototypes. He also traveled all over the world meeting with potential customers and partners. All of this work started to pay off in 2001 when NVIDIA released the GeForce 3 GPU. This was a game changer, and it quickly became the best-selling GPU on the market. Over the next few years, Jensen continued to innovate and push the boundaries of what was possible with GPUs. He focused on making GPUs faster, cheaper, and more energy efficient. This paid off big time, because by 2010, NVIDIA had become the world's largest GPU manufacturer. But Jensen never rested on his laurels. He knew that the competition was fierce and that he had to keep pushing if he wanted to stay on top. One of the biggest challenges that Jensen faced was convincing gamers that GPUs were worth the investment. At first, gamers were skeptical. They had been used to playing games at low resolutions and frame rates, and they were unsure if they needed a high-end GPU to play their favorite games. But Jensen and his team persevered, and they eventually won over the gamers. They showed gamers that GPUs could improve their gaming experience, and they convinced them to try out NVIDIA's products. Another challenge that Jensen faced was convincing the rest of the tech industry that GPUs were here to stay. At first, many tech insiders didn't believe in GPUs. They thought that it was just another short-lived fad. But Jensen and his team proved them wrong. They showed the industry that GPUs were more than just a fad, and that they were here to stay. In fact, Jensen and his team showed the industry that GPUs were going to be a major force in the future of computing. One of the most significant contributions that Jensen made to the tech industry was his work on deep learning. Deep learning is a type of artificial intelligence that uses GPUs to train machines to recognize patterns and make decisions. This has revolutionized many industries, including healthcare, finance, and manufacturing. In fact, many experts believe that deep learning will be one of the most important technologies of the 21st century. Of course, Jensen hasn't done all of this alone. He's had a great team behind him every step of the way. One of the most important people in Jensen's life is his wife, Lori. Lori has been with Jensen through thick and thin, and she's always supported him no matter what. She is an accomplished executive in her own right, and she is currently the president and CEO of the Semiconductor Industry Association. Jensen's sons have also been very supportive. Jensen often talks about how proud he is of his boys and how they've inspired him to be a better person. In addition to his family, Jensen has also had a great group of friends and mentors. One of his close friends is Andy Grove, who was the former CEO of Intel. Andy has been a mentor to Jensen throughout his career, and he's helped Jensen navigate the ups and downs of the tech industry. Jensen has also had a number of other mentors, including Jerry Sanders, who was the founder of AMD. Jensen has said that he's been inspired by all of these great minds, and he has followed their lead in building NVIDIA into the company it is today. So what can we learn from Jensen's story? First of all, we can see that it's possible to come from humble beginnings and make it big. Jensen didn't have a silver spoon in his mouth, but he worked hard and followed his dreams, and eventually became one of the most successful tech executives in the world. Secondly, we can see that it's important to never give up on your dreams. There were many times throughout Jensen's career when things were tough and he could have easily quit, but he never did. He pressed on and eventually achieved success. Lastly, we can learn that it's important to surround yourself with the right people. Jensen was able to accomplish all of his dreams because he had a great family, friends, and mentors supporting him along the way. We hope Jensen's story has inspired you to pursue your dreams and never give up. Thank you for watching.